Kagim, press play. Weka tu hivi, twende tu left, right, twende tu left, right, kila mtu left, right, twende tu to the left, to the right, twende to the right, to the left, to the left, to the right. Weka zote sasa, twende tu. Weka tu, kidogo tu, weka tu. Pole pole weka tu, kila mtu twende tu. Weka right, kidogo tu. Weka zote, peleka na tempo, kenda tu. Weka tu, kidogo tu. Alafu nataka turudi old school. Twende tu, hivi tu. Kidogo, 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 kidogo tu. Jaribu miondoko kidogo, twende nao. Kidogo tu. I don't know if you're trying this move pale nyumbani. Twende nao, twende nao, twende tu. Pole pole tu. Alafu wekelea tu hapa, twende nao, twende tu. Kila mtu. You can try this back at home with your mom. Alafu toa stress nayo. Kidogo tu. Pole pole tu. Alafu jilegeze tu kidogo tu. Twende tu. Pole pole tu. Pole pole tu. A very simple dance, legeza tu kidogo chini. Twende na. Simple. Pinduka hiyo side ingine, enda nao tu. Kidogo tu. Kidogo tu. One more time. Alafu kunja ngumi hivi, twende nayo tu. Kidogo. Kidogo tu. One more time. One more time. One more time, legeza. Twende nao. Twende nao. Twende nao. Twende nao. Kanyaga pole pole tu. Zunguka nayo. One more time, pole pole. Zunguka. Kunja ngumi. Twende nao. Twende nao. One more time. Let's go. Pole pole kila. Twende. Kila mtu. Kila mtu. Kila mtu piga makofi. Piga kidogo. Alafu you just shout at the ceremony. Oh, pull it up deep. So this move nataka kuwafunza, this is a new jump by Jabidi. And so ukiwa pale home, unaipiga ni mbogina ingia pa 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 makofi. And then you just say, oh, you guys got it, right? Ndio. Twende tu kidogo tu, kanyaga tu. Kanyaga tu. Kanyaga tu. Kanyaga nayo. Kanyaga nayo. Kanyaga nayo. Let's try it one more time, Martin. Nini? Nimbogi mengi. Makofi. Atisema nini? Oh, one more time, one more time. Ati nini? Makofi. Pole pole tu. Tatisha. 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 Kidogo tu. Tafuta rafiki. One more time. Wewe. Mali uko home. Twende. Kidogo. One more time. Kila mtu. Songa nayo. To the side. To the side. Kidogo tu. Alafu kistaarabu wenda nao. Songa nayo. Zunguka tu. Zunguka tu. time.
Somebody get an ambulance.
22.
Somebody call an ambulance.
Pull it, 22, 22.
They don't know.
They don't go to.
They're even looking for.
Old school fights.
They don't know what they're even.
Wait a kid over and come down.
I'm not ashamed.
Here comes the kid over to.
I'm not ashamed.
You know someone out to the restaurant.
50,
To the left.
50,
To the right.
50,
Left. Someone out to the
50. Standing for you to me and make choice.
22. 22. Kila mtu. Tujaribu TikTok.
Mic in my hand.
One more time.
Rubber band. Salvation na me.
Kila mtu.
Band. Daily to go pada band. Vision.
Put some energy.
Mic in my hand.
Kidogo tu.
Salvation na me. We are marching in your band. Daily to go pada band.
Alafu teremka chini tena. Pole tu. Teremka chini. Alafu tunaokota kila mtu tena nayo. Sali jini. One more time. Wake up. Pole tule. Kidogo tu. Oh. Songa nayo. Pole twende nao. Twende tu. Weka tu. Alafu tukanyage kidogo tu. Kanyaga tu. Put some energy to it. Twende tu. Twende. One more time. Twende tu. Kila mtu twende. I trust us in it. Summer, oh Lord. Kanyaga tu.
I trust. Say it. Show me how to do it, y'all.
So kulikuwa na exercise you. Tukiwa shule. Kila mtu. One more time. Let's go. Twende tu. Kila mtu. So, maliko home. Tunafanya kitu kama hii. The other hand. Over your head. Jaribu tu home. One more time. Over your head. Put some energy to it. To it. Over your head. One more time. Turn it to. Yes. Rukia, yes, Simon. Let's go. Rukia. Maliko. Teremka chini nayo. Jaribu massage kidogo tu. Side. To the side. To the side. Twende na tu. Weka tu. Twende senduthi pole tu. Kila mtu. Put some dance to it. Maliko, jaribu. Ile pesi. Weka dance. Let's go. Kila mtu. Mali uko tunapiga makofi kidogo tu. Cha cha. Anguka. Mota. Weka tu. Cha cha. Pole pole mali uko kila mtu twende. Weka tu. Kidogo. So if you're back at home, sijui unafanya nini? Put your hands up this way. I want to go to war. Kila mtu tuende. Weka dance. Weka dance kidogo tu. Tunarudi drama kidogo. Pole pole teremka chini. Weka. Kidogo tu. Turuke nao pole pole kila mtu. Ruka. Kidogo tu. Ruka. Putamena sio. Tuende. To all the Kikuyus in the house. Make some noise. Rukia Yeshua. Ruka bana. One more time. Maliuko, jaribu kitu kama hii. Songa nayo pole pole, tafuta rafiki, mwambie tabia ya kukula sadaka, tabia, pole pole twende. One more time. Songa nayo tu. Ate. Weka kidogo. Kidogo tu. Weka dance. Put your hands up in the air kila mtu. Weka tu. Kama umeshikilia sufuria ugali nyumbani, rusha nayo tuende. Weka. Kila mtu. So this is what we love to do. Weka. Sunguka. Pulo. Tuendelee ama tusiendelee? Songesha hiyo meza hapo nyumbani, alafu weka mguu hivi mbele. Twende kagi. Sunguka nayo. One more time. One more time. Twende tu. Ate. If you know the song, you can sing it. Sema Jesu. Tafuta mtu kevya modo. Heli. Mwingine bana. Yes. Pole pole tu. Clap for Jesus, let's go. Alafu Maluko pole pole, let's go. Twende kidogo tu. Maluko, go home. Shikilia mzazi hivi. Shikilia brother yako, unajua ametoka home, ametoka shule, ametoka job. And so tunadansi wote hapa studio, tuko wote. Twende tu chini tu. One more time. Oh, let's go. Swing low, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Irukana yo twende. Stronger. Stronger. Oh. Stronger. Oh. Kila mtu tuende. Oh. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. Tuende. Polo. Rukana yo. Kila mtu nikunzie ngumi pole pole. Odi tafuta rafiki. Twende tu. Pole pole weka miondoko. Twende tu. Kila mtu kidogo tu. Songa nao tu. Watu wa juu mko sawa? Ongeza tempo kidogo tu.
Hey, yo, Nixon, legend.
Twende.
He's an awesome guy. I mean, he was such an awesome guy.
One more time, let's go.
I'm never lonely. I mean, he was such an awesome love.
What you do now?
He's an awesome guy. And I wanna tell you to the world. Ili wajue anywhere.
So kuna style.
Kama si wewe.
Ilikuwa ni tangoko, twende.
Yana nilodi ya
Zunguka nayo.
ni wewe utapo.
Come on now, let's go. Zunguka tu. Alafu tafuta rafiki. Enda na hivi tu. Chini tu now. Chini. Tuende. Oh. Tafuta mwingine bana, alafu enda na hivi. Twende. One more time. Pull it up. Oh. Pigia Yesu kelele mahali upo. Come on, you can do better than that. Pigia Yesu makofi. Yeah. That was my time. My name is Haj Sam.
Hello. Wow. That was something. Nasikia tu hey. Manze, na hiyo tu tuseme tu ni kionjo. Awesome. So, welcome. This is the day we've been waiting for, and we thank the Lord for bringing us around. We are very, very blessed to have all of you here. We are very blessed to have a wonderful panel here and a wonderful crew. We thank the Lord for that. So this is Rays of Hope, Town Hall Edition. And today we continue unpacking Gen Z. This is our series that started 2 weeks ago. We started by understanding Gen Z, and then we moved on to discussing the battle of identity. And today we want to unpack that more and understand. So really we are glad that we are here and we are together. Again, I want to say how happy we are that the young people in the audience are coming to us from different institutions. And we thank God for that. Poea are in the house. The Presbyterian University of East Africa, kakelele kidogo at least. Tuko na wase wa UON, the UON. Tuko na Kenya Mass. Awesome. Na kuna magraduate na wengine wa JKUAT. Kuna Kenya Institute of Social Work. Kemu. Kubamba is also in the house. We thank you all. Now we start with a verse. And the verse of the day comes from Psalm 139, verse 13 and 14. Psalm 139, verse 13 and 14. For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. For our viewers, please remember that you can follow us on CAC TV Kenya on Facebook and CAC TV Kenya on YouTube. Would like to know where you're watching us from. We'd like to receive your comments, questions, anything that you want us to know from wherever you are. So start dropping those messages. We will be reading through them in a few. Over to TJ.
Awola. Mko fiti? Nilisikia hapo kuna comrades power. Comrades power. Kabisa. Today we have an interesting discussion. Now I'm so excited and thrilled to have this discussion today. Nilikuwa napiga story hapa nikaona mazee ali define Gen Z design ingine nikasema acha tu nyi wote benefit. Bro, Gen Z ni kina nani?
Gen Z ni sisi hapa.
So Gen Z ni sisi hapa. Generation wa Zing, ndio? Kabisa. So nilikuwa natembea pia nikaona acha niulize expectations za watu ni nini? Hilda, ulisema expectation yako leo ni?
I'm expecting to know a lot, especially that this title is within us. It's going to talk about us. I expect it to be lively and know a lot. Yes, thank you.
Kabisa. Tupatie Hilda makofi. Let your expectation be ripe. Kwa sababu hapa tuko na wataalamu. Sema wataalamu. Leo tunaenda kugain content, tunaenda kugain a lot from hii discussion ya leo. So this discussion is very relevant. Aya, kabla tuja move on, abu toa tenje nione. Nani yako na tenje? Amjui tenje? Aya, zitole. Tenje ni phone. Aya, fungua tuone kamera inakaaje. Naona kuna watu wako na ma iPhone. Kabisa. Toeni iPhone ama toeni simu yenye uko nayo. Naona Reva ametoa yake. Aya, fungua kamera pale, mtaratibu. Aya, enda hapo selfie, piga selfie ingine moto hapo, karanga selfie. Aya, piga selfie. Piga selfie na mtu mwingine. Share. Aya, umekanyaga selfie? Hapo sawa. Post member wa social handle zetu cactv.kenya, pale Facebook cactv.kenya, IG pia. Aya, ipige mtandao. Alafu tuone gani ita trends, ndio? Nakwambia kuna zawadi kem. A promise is a debt. Mnitafute. Hapo sasa, so to set the tone for this conversation, tumekuwa tukibonga Gen Z. Mmesikia definition, generation Z ni kina nani? Kina sisi. So any conversation very relevant to us. So we are ready and prepared to take on this conversation. Ama vipi? So let your expectation be ripe, eh? Leo tunaenda kuingia discussion fiti. I am mdogo, acha ni join hawa kurugenzi. So before us, we have a group of experienced people. Hapa kuna wataalamu venye nilisema. Nitawapatia nafasi wajiintroduce from my right tukienda hivi.
Hi guys, mimi naitwa Edwin Ndegwa. I am a communications, marketing and public relations specialist. Wazi.
Hi everyone, my name is Flash Mboro, a counseling psychologist and a mother to 2 Gen Zs. Yeah.
Hi. How are you, Gen Zs? When I look at these panels, I think apart from TJ, Vindo, pia nimekaribia Gen Z. So my name is Tabi Kimani, I'm born again, and I work with the youth ministry in the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, Ron Anthony here. I'm the director of youth in the church, this Presbyterian Church of East Africa. I'm a father of 4 generation Alpha.
Hi guys.
Hi.
My name is Jane Geshoke. I love the Lord as my personal savior. Professionally, I'm a financial. I'm a mother of 2 Gen Zs, 19-year-old and 21-year-old, and I have a passion for young people, and happy to be here.
Wape makofi zao, kem, hapo zikam. Mnaona leo tumewaandalia kikosi. Hii ni squad mazee, knowledge ita flow. Wangapi wako na pen na notebooks? Ama ziko kwa tenjes? Ziko hapa? Nimewapata. So hope you're ready to engage and just open up your hearts to receive, because today it's going to be an impactful one. So kuna kitu Rev alisema battle of identity. So nataka ku understand battle of identity ni nini. So acha tuanze na Edu. What is battle of identity? Why do we call it the battle of identity?
I think the reason why we are calling it the battle of identity is basically because we are at a certain point of life in a season. We are in a season where we are not clearly able to define who we are, or we are not able to have the environment around us really understand who we are, so we miss out somewhere. So it's a battle to know. There are things that we know about ourselves that we're not sure about them. There are things that people know about us, and probably that's not the case. I think so.
Yeah, that's a very good reaction, because I don't know how many of you guys have been following our conversation. This question came up, and the question was, who am I? Mini nani? Nikiuliza sai Hilda we ni nani? Hilda ataniambia maybe mini Hilda, niko kwea, niko, based on the profession that you do. But that question came up severally, like who am I? And I think that's a really important place to start from, because this is a tension that exists. Tukitembea huku nje kuna all sorts of things that want to give us an identity. So we want to understand hii tension tutamanuvaje. And niliwaambia tuko na wataalamu, we have a council in the house. Give it up for Flash. Yeah. She's really cool, trust me, she's really cool. Ukisikia unaitwa Flash, yeah, she's really cool. So Flash, I want to ask you, maybe from a professional perspective, as a counselor, what are the things that inform an identity?
All right, there are several things that can inform your identity. Your upbringing, your religion, your family background, your tribe, your culture, your friends, social interaction, your personality. All those inform your identity. And then there is also the personality, which doesn't quite change. Let nobody tell you your personality changes. It doesn't quite change. So again, that is part of your identity. So, and a lot of it is environmental, culture, upbringing. Yeah.
That's a good way to start us off. So cultural context, socially, how you're socialized, even tribe, wajaluo kwa wapi, Omera, Tibim, ama watu wa nyumba, Muriega, Watindata, acha tumalizie hapo. So there are various things that influence the our identity. And Flash ametuambia maze kuna social context, kuna personality, kuna all these things that try to give us a form of identity, cultural, maybe the experiences, personal experiences somebody may go through. Let me ask Gen Z, mwenzangu mwenye ako hapa. So what do you think in our generation, what really informs our identity?
Well, identity yetu kutoka mbali. But basically, when you think about a Gen Z and the identity, the first place they even run into social media. And it's because these are Gen Z, it's a generation that grew, they found the media existing, social media existing. Unlike other generations where they saw the media transiting from Sijui Great Wall, Sijui I don't know what, to all these things, touch screen and all that. Gen Z, that is their nature. We have grown up with this. So if my identity is not aligned or at par with what social media is, with what I'm seeing, with what my other friends are talking about, with what is mostly liked and what is mostly hyped, then that's not it. So they run there in as much as maybe as we move forward, we'll see the pros and cons of it, but they run there first as their origin of who am I.
That's really interesting. Social media na play role, sindio? Hiyo influence iko. Pressure ya kuomoka nini. Najua mabazu mnanipata. Social media unaona mse pale ameingia Dubai. All right, thank you for that contribution. I think social media has a really has a big influence on our generation. Si tumeamkia. Yani si technology is not something strange.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned Great Wall. Kuna watu wanajua Great Wall ni nini? Na si a wall that is great. Like, Great Wall. Is it not the Great Wall of China also? Na najua Great Wall tuone kwa mkono? Wa? Mnawacheki? Rev, unajua Great Wall?
Clear red.
Okay. Let's hear your contribution as well, Rev. Maybe from even you looking at us as Gen Zs, what have you seen as the thing that really shapes the Gen Z identity, at least from an outsider's perspective?
All right. I think one of the things to grasp is that Gen Z itself, because you're looking at a spectrum of guys who are from 11 to 26, within that you actually have very clear demarcations. You have a section that is dealing with personal identity in terms of figuring out gender issues. You're talking about an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, which is the end of the first stage of life, which is childhood. So this person is figuring out who am I, not in the way that the 26-year-old is thinking about who am I. They're thinking about I'm a human person. So what is it that is around me? What is family? What is church? What is God? What is school? What is police? What is authority? You know? What are the environmental issues? What is social media? As in everything is in a sort of now in a formative stage where things are crystallizing in the early intellectual ways, and this young person is figuring out who am I in terms of how do I fit in this world that I find myself in. Then secondly, you have the teenage group that is within the Gen Z. You're talking about from around 13 to 19. And these guys are figuring out the question of who am I in terms of a social dimension. In terms of now that I'm no longer a child and I'm not an adult, who am I? How do I behave? Sometimes a teenager will behave in a way that they're gonna get rebuked for behaving like a baby. Another time they're gonna behave in a way and get rebuked because you're behaving too old. You know, so there is that sort of identity of who am I in terms of what is my faith? Yeah, what do I believe? And The other question is, how do I deal with the developmental changes that are taking place within me? Because there are physiological changes, emotional changes, the intellectual phase is also accelerating, because this is somebody in high school now. You're dealing with heavier subjects of life in a scientific way. And then there is also now the engagement in a bigger way with, for example, something like social media. I mean, these are guys that you'll find, for example, right now. And yesterday I was reading an article that was saying that Kenya is, I think it is the leading hub of TikTok users globally. TikTok, Unpacking. that was really something. And the major consumers are the Gen Zs. The report of, it's called the GYC, the Global Youth Culture Report, was just saying that these Gen Z people of around that age will spend up to 7.5 hours every day on social media. What are they doing? They are trying to figure out who we are in terms of my faith, the things that are around me, what are other people saying, and how does it matter to me. And of course also there is now the last group, that is the 19s to 26, that is figuring out themselves in a way of their social impact, their place in life. Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to work? Where will I get income? Because they are preparing now for because this is now the early adulthood stage, they are preparing to enter family life in a very short few years to come. So you find that there are different kinds of identity that they are struggling with, and each one of them is informed by different things. At the earliest, family is very important. In the middle group, peers are very important. In the last group of 19 to 26, my career peers are very important in defining who I am. It's a pretty long answer, sorry.
Thank you. Nilembo leo kuna wataalamu, si ndio? Simesikia hiyo answer. Thank you for that input. It's really important to appreciate all these influences from social perspective, the peer, and what ages, because even tukiangalia kwa group yetu, kuna wase, there are different phases of their lives, and different influences affect them at various stages. So it's important that we also appreciate such sentiments and also know how we can identify ourselves even in the midst of all these things. Let me ask the parent in the house, parent to 2 Gen Zs. Tumpatie makofi tena. From an upbringing perspective, from the familial level, how have you seen maybe your daughters cope, and the role that you also play in helping them find their identity?
I think, like several of us have said here, the Gen Z has come in during the digital era. They're actually the digital natives. They know, they have found, technology and everything as a big thing, and they have found themselves in there. So it's actually, I think, a very difficult era because of information overload. There's too much, and they have access to so much information, and that affects who they are. In the sense that even from a young age, I see the little babies now, when they're growing up, their toys, they're given tablets like these ones. Like that's what makes them keep quiet. We used to give our kids rattles, the ones of making noise. So they get tablets, there are cartoons, there's everything. So everything is digitized, and therefore they're having a lot of information at a young age. And I think that has been challenging in the sense that their expectations, and for my experience has been that what happens out there is so important to the young people. Like how I look out there, what does society, how does it look out there for me? So that has been a challenge. So their identity, as much as a parent you're trying the formative ages and bringing them up in the values that you actually feel is the right way, then there's external pressure. A lot of external pressure that then makes them very anxious. So there has been a lot of anxiety. You're bringing up your children. They have access to a lot of information. There's a lot of expectations, and puts them really under pressure. So I think it's been tough, but it's continuous. There's so much peer pressure, not just local, global. So they basically have access to the world on their gadgets.
All right, yeah. There's that aspect that you've picked out, and I'd like to pay attention to that. The pressure that comes with it, and sometimes you find anxiety may creep in, or even depressive thoughts, the pressure to cope, the pressure to fit in, and all these battles that we face. Maybe when we're by ourselves, unatry mazeku, pia ufike base, ndio? Like you, pia luku pia upige. Kwani luku watu wengine ndo watapiga peke yake. Sio lazima upige luku. So all these pressures that surround us, and I want to ask Flash, in terms of maybe from a counseling perspective, you know, we face all these issues. Mizi pressure pia, to be honest, nimekasikia. Nange pale mtandao, how can we cope with anxious thoughts, depression, like these discussions that they're already in our midst? How can we address them?
All right. Let me first say, as a therapist, I think Gen Z are one of the lot that willingly come for therapy and that actually say they want to see a therapist willingly. And there's nothing that gives a therapist joy than seeing a willing client. And there is no nightmare of a therapist than an unwilling client. So Gen Z, first of all, therapy, they got that right. Now, the reasons why they become anxious, unless it is inherited, then sometimes it's environment, and more often than not, it is about being misunderstood, especially by us. Sasa mini generation gani? X. Yes. The generation X kinda don't understand the Z, because there is such a great disparity from the way they do things to technology. We judge them very harshly as parents. We are coming from a background of being told because I said so. Now you don't tell a Jay-Z, I said so. They are going to challenge you. You need to explain to them why. I mean, and the 5 why, we do the 5 why, and it can really irritate a Gen X who is not used to being questioned. We are coming from a place where you question your parent, you are being rude. So that is one thing that the parents of Gen Z have to understand. Hence the anxiety, because here is a parent who does not understand you, either in matters of dating or the challenges you're going through in school or college or work. And the safest person to speak to is a parent. Then here is a parent who does not understand. So the anxiety goes high. They have demands. Someone has just said they are in the era of technology. Technology is their normal. But for me, I'm thinking technology, you want a laptop, you want a phone, that's a luxury. You get. Because we don't understand that for you, it's your basic. Because you've grown up in tech. So there is that reason, and that is why they'll be unhappy, they'll be depressed, because they are not understood. Yeah.
So if I may ask, we need to bridge that generational gap. And from the conversations we've been having even on the show, kama hujakuwa watch may rewind, we've been looking at these issues in terms of, okay, what is this generational difference that we have? Tukangalia Gen X, tukangalia Gen Y, Gen Y pia ni millennials, and then Gen Z. And we appreciated that kuna differences when you look at all these generations, how they operate, venye wanazungumza, how they appreciate information. And what I'm realizing is, first and foremost, we need to have a conversation like this one. So, ini baraza, where all generations, not all, but most generations are represented, and we are trying to have a conversation to one, where is the convergence point? So for those that are viewing us, this is a very relevant conversation that you need also to take on. Allow concessions and allow such dialogue, because Generation Z, not talk to, talk with. We appreciate dialogue and conversation. I'm a Gen Z, mini firstborn I'm a Gen Z. Zaliwapo 90, kido 97. So I'm representing well. Sindio ama? Nawangusha? Asituko sawa? Wacha tuendelee. So what other coping mechanisms now that, okay, we've appreciated, we need to bridge this gap? What else can a Gen Z do?
So one, counseling, if it's really, really bad. Number two, talk it out, and realize that sometimes the parenting style of your parent does not define who you are. You are not exactly on the wrong, it's just that a parent does not understand you. The other thing is, instead of closing yourself in your cocoon with your problems and your stress, talk to somebody. It may not be a therapist, because therapy can be expensive, but speak to someone, your pastor, your uncle who seems to get you, or that nice auntie, surely you have one of them, who seems to get you and to understand, so that they can talk to your folks, because for your folks they've already judged you. So someone who can talk to your folks and your pastor. So I think they just need to start talking to somebody and understanding that they are not exactly on the wrong. It's just that sometimes we are projecting how we've been brought up on you. It's what we know. It's just about what we know. Because dialogue, I'm glad Jay-Z, they dialogue a lot. They engage a lot. If there is a lot that is courageous, it's actually Gen Z. Unfortunately, sometimes they vent on social media, which may not actually okay, you vented, you've projected, you vented, but you have not sorted the underlying issue, which is probably a relationship that you need to talk about. So speak to experts or people who are wise, who will listen to you. Yeah.
Right. So counseling is not a taboo. So therapy is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Where you can actually seek out intervention to get to understand, okay, what am I feeling? Try to unravel it.
Absolutely. Counseling, we need to demystify that, especially in Kenya. When you come to see a therapist, you're not mad, you're not schizophrenic, you're just coming because you can even hit a jackpot and come for therapy because you don't know what to do with all that money. So therapy is very normal. In fact, it is very, very healthy, so that your feelings are validated. Because we all need validation. Even me, we all need validation.
Thank you. Maybe you can suggest certain counseling centers that even we can benefit from. And maybe the affordable ones, because hapa bado kamfuko cha kubalio jackpot ndo tunangojea.
Okay, so there is Amani Counseling Center. There is As a Life, which is my enterprise. I have my own organization, As a Life. There is KAPC. There is KeepCore. You can go there for counseling. And by the way, Gen Z, we are not that bad. If it's really bad, we can do pro bono, isn't it? Seeing you for free won't make me broke, right? So don't go committing suicide and going through depression and getting stressed and killing yourself. This money is never that serious. We can see you pro bono.
Thank you. Let's appreciate her once again. Thank you. This lot, we are quite inquisitive, and that has really come out strongly. We ask why. We want to understand mbona, iko hivi mbona, hii light mbona inawaka hivi. We want to understand the reason behind. And I think this curiosity, even in terms of exploring matters religion, tumejipata, we are questioning, we are asking this and that. I don't know, let me ask my fellow Gen Z. Unaona mzalimieni? Yeah, so let me ask you, have you interacted with such philosophies in university or maybe in your circles where people are asking why? And what sort of philosophies come as a consequence of those questions that we are asking?
A lot of philosophies. I think one that is very interesting, the origin of man. Some time back, in our church we did a debate on, is the Bible authentic? And Gen Z will ask the question, why should I believe in the Bible in the first place? Is it true? Does it make sense to me? Should I take it as the gospel truth like the other gens took it? And for them it was yes and amen. Yes, amen. For Gen Z is why. From where does it come from? And that's where you find the many philosophies that the Gen Z live with, or rather they take life with. And that's where we, like you just said, my truth is my truth. They believe that you can have your truth, I can have my truth, your truth, my truth, we are good, peace. They talk, it's either my way or the highway. And you won't tell them nothing, by the way. It's my way or the highway. No worries, no wahala. I mean, kaende, nikubali. They believe, kasonge. I mean, if it's a generation that goes or takes life ikienda, ni Gen Z. The other generations are a bit cautious and trying and thinking, and a bit risk-taking and wondering how will this end up for them. Another one, brokenness is temporary, but drip is eternal. Mzazi umesikia hiyo? Drip is eternal. And I'll challenge the parents who are here. You take one day, a Sunday afternoon, walk on Kimathi Street, uko Mama Ngina Street, hapo ndo utajua drip is eternal ni kusema nini. Utaelewa. Because, like right now, see wako holiday. Okay, they're part of Gen Z that are teenagers, wako midterm. If you go to those streets, my friend, you will find them they are the cameras guru, and you will understand what drip is eternal is. It's designer dressing. And watatokelezea. They believe that if I have seen this in the social media, I should also, have it. And they'll go to that extent. It is what it is. Yesterday's solution can't solve today's problems. It is what it is, man. If it doesn't concern me, I don't care. I mean, it's not my business. And that's why you'll find Gen Z, they can be on their phone, for example. Someone has gotten an accident, but because it doesn't concern them, it's not their business. And it's true. As in, si yake, manze, we shughulika basi wewe. And that's their nature. As she said, that's their personality. Yeah. And it's hard to change a personality.
That's really interesting. Yeah. That perspective of mi niko hivi, wewe kaa kivyako. Yeah. Mi niko sawa, wewe uko sawa.
As long as hatuaffectiani, sini freshi. Yeah. I don't disturb you, you don't disturb me. It's cool.
So there's this concept of relativism.
Yeah.
Like immediately something comes up, that's my truth. And I'd like this conversation now to engage Rev. I don't know if in the context in how the church is structured, like the mold of the church, is it accommodative to the questions, to the why, to these questions that are being posed, that challenge even what's the origin of man? Such questions that Gen Zs are really inquisitive. It's out of nature. They want to get to the understanding why. As the church is structured, what do you think about this conversation?
Well, there is definitely now a question that has to do with the process of faith development. Because faith development is something that begins in the home. The first institution of faith that a Gen Z comes into contact with is the family. And if the parent does not take the role of mentor, discipler, helper, encourager, in introducing the things of God to this young person, I can tell you for free, the church will not help much. The scripture is very clear. Mwenye amezaa alee mtoto. Raise up a child the way they should go, and when they are grown, they shall not depart. That is a commandment given to the institution of the family where faith takes shape. And so the parent should be the one who is answering these questions. Because in the public space, for example, you're thinking about a church that has 500 teens or 200, a huge number. There is no time that each one of them will get personalized attention. It will be wholesale to be general things. So me, I'm struggling with my own kakona of some problems that nobody else seems to be going through. And I have nobody to ask. Either because, Flash here said, because of the gap, they're even wondering if I express myself to my pastor or my elder who is Generation X, will they understand what I'm trying to talk about? So there is that. The first institution must be the family, and in that case, parents must be challenged to do their job the way they must do. And again, it is a very emotional stage. such that when you tell our kids of this age about God, they will believe you because anyway they are kids and they trust you that you know. So if you tell them that God is good, they will trust you. They will actually believe. If you tell them that the Bible is the word of God, they will believe you because you're older, they're younger, they don't know. But immediately after the section of Gen Z that are teenagers, then we enter what we call the intellectual stage. And that is where questions begin. That is where they will start questioning the Bible. Why? Because in biology, in physics, and others who are in the campus and college space, they're interacting with heavy theories of Newtons and Faraday's and, archaeologists and, Big Bang Theory. And they're wondering, okay, what about the Bible? Where are the theories of the Bible? And it is during this stage that a Gen Z will come into what we call the faith and science conflict. They'll begin wondering, okay, now, what do I believe? Because in the campus space, which is an intellectual space, everything has to have empirical evidence. Everything is scientific. What about God? I mean, how do you want me to believe that a guy called Noah built a big thing called an ark and he was supposed to pack animals 2 by 2, 7 by 7? How did he even know the difference between a female and male mosquito, to grab them and put them in the ark? Because intellectualizing these things, and it doesn't help that during this space, like my sister here is saying, that there are a lot of philosophies that are pushed on them. Atheism is being pushed on them. Scientism is being pushed on them. Cultism and occultism, all of them are being pushed. Humanism, they are being all pushed on them because they are trying to give them a way of answering the 4 questions of life: the question of origin, morality, destiny, and purpose. So if the scripture does not address that for them because they have not been sufficiently informed, then they're going to pick up any of these other philosophies that seem to make sense to them. Now, as I close this contribution, I think one other thing that we have not done as a church, we have not pushed the Gen Zs hard enough. We have not pushed, I'm sorry, but we have been too gentle on you. We have been too soft. I mean, we've given you the soft life in that dimension. The soft life may not have come because we've not hit the jackpot as yet in that dimension, like you say. But in terms of the faith, the church has been too soft. The world is not merciful at all. The world is hitting hard. Look at what's happening presently. I mean, we are having social revolutions of every dimension being pushed down our throat. With the collaboration of the big media, big money, big lobbyists, and the academia as well. Whole curriculums are being transformed to push an agenda among the young people, but as a church, we're not pushing hard enough. We have introduced the Gen Z to the disciplines of the Christian faith. We have told them, you ought to read the Bible, you ought to pray, you ought to go to church, but you have not told them, you ought to be able to define the doctrines of your faith. You ought to be able to understand the framework of your faith, understand the doctrine of the what and the why you believe it. And then also we have not pushed them hard enough into what we call the defense of the faith in terms of apologetics. And it is a very clear commandment from the scripture in 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 15 that we be ready to give an answer for the hope that we have. If you ask a regular Gen Z about, okay, explain to me your faith and explains to me why Christianity is different from Islam. And do you seriously mean that everybody else apart from Christians who are born again are the ones going to heaven? Are you seriously saying that Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone is the way, the truth, and the life? And unless anybody comes through him, they have no eternal life. I just will take a step back and let me think about that. Because we have not pushed them hard enough to look comparatively at the philosophies, at the religions. We have probably continued to, sing 2 songs, a little Bible study, some little activity over here. But my main point is, as a church, we've not done a very good job. We've not pushed hard enough. So we are coming at you.
Yeah.
Rev,
huku conversation imebamba sana. Huku tu ni kumoto. Huku ndo hot city iko. Wacha tusikie kama kwa ground vitu ni same. Wacha tusikie kwa ground watu wanasemaje.
Na pia kwa screens tusikie watu wanasemaje, but hawa tu pia wako like Really? So we have quite a number of people following us, and we just want to appreciate them. We have Sharifa Chichi Akowapi, and I represent Banana Parish, Kiambu Presbytery. Nice discussion. Sam Maina anasema watching from Nanyuki. Bush John tuned from PCA Imani Kiungani Parish. We have Pwani is in the house. That is Rev Kishimo. We have Madam Pitines Ndegwa, nice and lovely Rev, watching from Athi River Parish. Alafu anasema timbo yote yende kwao Athi River. Please bring that team down here. So tuko na form hapo. Tuko na something to do. So tuko na Dennis Favor anasema hello Edwin Ndegwa Mwangi. Ule msee yako pale hivi. Alafu tuko na JKM tuned, tuko na Alex tuned from Ishuga Parish, tuko na tuned from Vetu anaitwa Nancy. Wilson Masharia Rev, Ishimo, Rev Kyoge, we have Mawera, hello all, Tabi Kim, proud of you. Hey, Tabi. Alafu tuko na Nahashan Githaiga, anasema na watch, tuko na John Dungu tuned, alafu tuko na Jose. Tutaendelea, and we want to just ask our online audience na wale wako home, ataka una watch kwa teli, tunajua watu wengi wana watchingi kwa teli, especially Gen X and the earlier generations. Please just drop a message. We like being told. We like nyinyi being told, because mimi niko na imbogi, so I'm representing. So at this moment I'm Gen Z. At this moment anasema ti hawajawa push sana. Do you agree with them? We've been served with a whole, lot of information. Do you agree with them that world yenyu inashipiwa na social media, that kanisa ijawa push enough and all these things? What do you think? Dennis is helping me. Yes.
Should I stand? Yes. Good evening. Good evening, online viewers. My name is Kalitos Muthiru, and I have two questions. One I'll pose to Rev, one I'll pose to Flash, and everyone else can contribute. I'll start with Flash's contribution. You said that when one goes for therapy, if I've misquoted you, sorry, but you said that if one goes to therapy and they come, we want our feelings to be validated. And I'll couple it with Rev's contribution, where he said that we need to be informed fully, and there's the aspect of our families raising us up to be the mentors, to be the 4 words that you've said. Let me check. I was taking notes. Serious. Mimi si Gen Z. Notebook and pen. Yes. Said mentor, discipler, helper, encourager. So there's the aspect of the family raising us up well, so that we can have those values instilled in us since we are small. My perspective would be, when you're small, kuna hizi vitu that you don't really understand well. Let's say between the part of 0 till teenagehood. Hii mambo uelewi vizuri. Ukitoka huku nje now during your teenagehood is when you get to nika unafunguka akili. Quote and quote, unaanza kufunguka akili. And how can I put this? I don't know why, but I'd find it very difficult for these things to be imposed when you're a kid. It is important, but how do you do it to impose it from a family level, so that when ukikuja kwa peers, the point of teenagehood, you don't come being so inquisitive, but you're already grounded. You see, you don't come at sister, now this is when you want to know, hey, where do I stand? And Flash's point where you said that therapy would come from a point of your feelings being validated. I'd actually say there are some things that can be demystified on our end. You can come for therapy and you'll be utaona tu hapa kuongea ukweli. There are some things that you view but are not correct. And you've said that Gen Zs are very inquisitive, but there's this other aspect. Gen Zs are know-it-alls. We are a know-it-all. Hakuna kitu mnaweza tuambia. In as much as we're inquisitive, we are inquisitive and know-it-all. So where does therapy lie in terms of accommodating the know-it-all attitude and the inquisitive attitude and demystifying some things that we might think are true and still validating our feelings because we want to be heard. When someone comes for therapy, like you want someone to validate your feelings, someone who understands you. But there's a point of, hey, hapa kuongea kweli. My friend can come and talk to me and mwambia hapo kuongea kweli, mi vile naona you're in the wrong. So how can you balance that? Sijui kama it has come across well.
Okay, yeah, I think it has.
Dennis?
Oh, thank you so much. Very good question from that end. I really appreciate. And maybe before our counseling psychologist gives us the answers, maybe we still have another question from the audience. Maybe somebody with a question. Let me start from right here.
Good evening. My name is Kennedy Ibrahims from KMC. You've said, Rev, you said that the church hasn't pushed us enough. So in what sense? I'd like you to answer right now. In what sense?
Like right now?
Yeah.
I don't know in which order we are supposed to answer the questions.
We're only Gen Z.
Kama sio sasa. Ni sasa hivi. What I mean is this. Now, we Christians, I'm taking it for granted that you're talking about this from a Christian perspective.
Yeah.
Right? Now, some of the important disciplines that we need to adopt are, for example, prayer. There are Gen Zs that you'll tell to pray, they have no idea what it means to pray. They'll freak out. They don't know how to pray. Number two, you'll give them a mic and tell them, tell me 10 Bible verses. You're a Christian and you're 25. Tell me 10 Bible verses. Well, John 3:16. Then end of story. You know, no, 11:35. They don't know that one. They don't know that. What does John 11:35 say? Okay, this one knows. This one, umeokolea mbogi. Now, so in that dimension, as the disciplines have not been sufficiently, taught. They have not been sufficiently pushed to practice. If you ask, for example, randomly, tell me about your devotional life. Tell me about your personal spiritual growth strategy. Many don't have that. It is a verse a day to keep the devil away, and sometimes he refuses to go away, because of that. Now, the other dimension I mentioned is the dimension of the doctrine. The doctrine which actually now forms the substance of the faith. If for example, we ask an outline of the major doctrines of the Christian faith, explain that to me. At least the 8 major doctrines of the Christian faith. We have the doctrine of God, the doctrine of Christ, the doctrine of the Spirit, the doctrine of the church, the doctrine of sin, the doctrine of salvation, the doctrine of the last things. Well, majority have no idea about the framework of that which forms the pillars of the faith. And that is why you find cults and the occult, which means false religions and witchcraft, prospering so fast because there isn't sufficient information and build from the inside for somebody to be able to say, no, but according to the doctrine of salvation, this is the way we are saved, right? And then finally, it is now being able to offer an apologetic for your faith, which means the defense of the faith. Such that if you're confronted by a Jehovah's Witness, for example, or a Seventh-day Adventist, and you're told, you guys are wrong and you guys are not Christians because you go to church on Sunday and you're supposed to go to church on Saturday, how do you respond to that? You're confronted by a Muslim and they tell you Jesus Christ was just one of the good people. He's just one of the prophets. He's not the Son of God. Show me from the Bible that he is the Son of God. This is what I am saying, that we have not pushed them hard enough to take personal responsibility. In the Presbyterian church context, for example, it is at the age of 12 years, just at the beginning now of what you're talking about, Gen Z, that one is surrendered to the church by the parent. You stand there with your mom, with your dad, the pastor tells you, look at your parent and tell him or her, or both of them or whoever has raised you up, thank you for bringing me in the house of the Lord. And then the pastor tells them, you take a seat, wacha sasa nikarange hawa. And it is not the pastor who is asking the question, unasema ya kwamba wewe umeokoka na utaachana na kazi yote ya shetani. Alafu unasema ndio mguu, you know? From that point, what's happening is that you're expected to take personal responsibility for spiritual maturity. And unfortunately, because of one problem that starts with a D that is called distraction. Because Gen Z is a distracted generation because of technology. You find that that responsibility of spiritual development and maturity is not seriously taken by the individual.
Okay, so thank you. I think, I don't know if I misheard you, but if I didn't, then kidogo kitakuramba. So, tukianza, you said something about mzazi akizaa mtoto anamlea mwenyewe.
Yes.
So, kama ni hivyo, then how come nyinyi kama church hamjachukua hiyo responsibility, mtoe hao watoto ama mwambie wazazi leteni watoto kanisa? Hakuna vile mnaweza sema ati church is not pushing enough or whatever, when you yourself are saying
yes,
every parent to raise their own child.
Okay, let me be very quick so that the other panelists can be able to say something. So I'll fire it this way. We raise up children in partnership. The family is the beginning point. The family must and always should come first when it comes to the raise. If you read, for example, the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6, the Israelites were commanded by God. As God's covenant children, they were told what to do. They were given clear instructions. You shall speak these things to your children. Explain these things to them. Write them on their clothes, write them on the door frames, write them on the bracelets, on the necklaces, on the ornaments they put on. Write the word of God, and so that they, from the earliest stage, they will be able to begin understanding faith. And then when children now come to church, we are still in partnership, which does not take the responsibility away from the family. I always say this, that church is a helping institution. School is a helping institution. Government is a helping institution. It is the responsibility of the parent, with church or no church, with school or no school, to raise up a child to be a wholesome individual that can contribute positively to society. So there is no way we're going to do away with the family, but we still work in partnership with the family. So our job should be to equip parents to be what now my brother here was saying. We should equip parents to be disciplers, enablers, mentors, and encouragers, so that they can be able to fulfill their mandate and their responsibility in as far as child raising is concerned.
Oh, thank you so much. What a wonderful contribution. I know every one of us here, and maybe our panelists have the best answers for us, but I'm just going to take one contribution, or maybe a comment from the back right there. I don't know whether the cameras are going to focus to us. Maybe right there, and maybe just one from that side, and it's going to be good for us. So let me just get one from this side as we get to conclude. Welcome.
Thank you. Name is Sammy. Clearly, I'm not a Gen Z, but I will ask my question either way. Goes to Rev and also Tabitha, who represent both extremes. My question is, how do we balance? We say we've not pushed this Gen Z well enough as a church. How do we balance that? And also balance what Tabitha is telling us. For them, drip is like in their DNA. How do we push them and also allow them to have their drip? How do we push them in defending their faith, but also allowing them to express what they are feeling? And number two is, at what point did we lose touch also with Gen Z? We need to track back and also learn our history. At what point was that gap created? Because you see, millennials and baby boomers are kind of apple to car. They're like almost the same. But now with Gen Z, it's like there's this gap mentally, physically, emotionally, technologically. So how do we balance that, where we push them, yes, to stand in their faith, push them in teaching them as the word of God says in Deuteronomy 6, but also allow them to live out their color? Yes.
Oh, this is great. Thank you so much. As we're continuing, I know the panelists, again, they have the best answers for us, and I will be coming back to them. So to get the last question, let me get it right from here.
Rev, you said a really, really nice thing concerning the church to push the Gen Zs and the family. But what happens where you come from this scenario where coming from home is the same home where you're being mistreated, where the things that you want to be told or to be taught about, they're happening at home. Then you come to church, you'd see the same things. What changes? Where do you go from there? Because if you're going to depend on the church and our parents, I think it's going to be really, really hard for those individuals who are coming from home. Things are happening there, things of which they want answers for, and then coming to church where the same thing is happening. Where do we go from there?
This is great. We really appreciate our contributions from the audience. It is wonderful. So maybe I get it back to Reverend to take us back to the panelists to give us the correct answers for that. Thank you so much. It's been my time.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for that session. And actually, kuna waka moto hata huku kwa social media. Watu wanasema kumechemka. Kumechemka. Ati kitawaramba. Waa! Kumechemka kwa kweli. Peter Tesh anasema awesome. Mushai Marion anasema awesome. Jose Nyamo, Akosjuka Jado, Josephine following. Yani watu tu wana follow. Awesome debate. Following Baba Edwin Degwa, Mwangi, Alex Mwangi. Wow, what a support. Rev Tony hapo sawa, tuned in from Rongai, watching from Royal Faith. I mean, there are many comments, and we thank God for that. We'll have another session. Please just hold on to those comments. Over to you, TJ.
Wow, for the panelists, acha pia tuwapatie makofi. Hizo maswali zimekam. We appreciate you and we thank you for your feedback and contribution. Keep them coming in hot. So there's a question that was addressed directly to you, Flash, and I'd just like you to just interact with that question from your perspective.
All right, I'll try to be very brief. Now, my son over there said you are very inquisitive, and I say that you also need to be validated. So how does the validation with your inquisitiveness, when you come for therapy, how does that work? I'll give you a very common example that I get, because again, from what I understood is that how do I validate maybe something that is wrong, right? Now, I'll give you my concern about you people not being validated. Let's talk about dating. Many of the Gen Zs come to me because of issues of you are having a relationship and your parent is saying it's a no-no. You are either in high school or you are in college and your parent is ata anaongea vibaya and they are telling you, for the ladies, munaitwa whatever you are called, and the guys, you are called whatever you are called. Now, I'm giving that example so that I can make you understand that I will first of all validate your feelings. Because if you don't feel crush for a girl at your age, then I worry. In fact, at class 8, if you feel nothing for a girl, or a boy feels nothing for, or a girl feels nothing for a boy, you know, at one point you should feel something, isn't it? It is a normal emotional, whatever. So I validate you, and I tell you it is okay what you're feeling. And maybe the concern of your parent is 1, 2, 3. The problem is they are trying to protect you but shaming your feelings. So we'll talk about boundaries. We'll talk about the amygdala, that hormone that makes you have that crush or have that feeling, you know. So one, I've validated your feelings. Then let's talk about the pros and cons of a relationship at your age, the consequence of a relationship at your age. And we'll talk about when is it right to start dating because of 1, 2, 3. So one, I will caution you. I will make you understand the concerns of that parent. Now in a nice way. You get. But at the same time, I'm validating your feelings. So that is what happens when you come for therapy. Where you went wrong, we are going to discuss. And most of the time, you are the one who will come with the answers and actually understand where you went wrong, you yourself. I will psycho-educate you and make you understand where the problem is. And if the problem was not with you, then again, we will get you to understand it is not with you. So either way, you'll be psychoeducated, you will change bad behavior, because in psychology we say behavior is learned, relearned, and learned. So you will change bad behavior, and if you are not the one on the wrong, then we are going to validate what you feel, because most of the time, Gen Z, your feelings are not validated. That's what I meant. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Flash, for that interaction. And there's also a question when it comes to family. Like from the point of, I feel misunderstood, misinterpreted, or not listened to. And I love what my brother back there said, kama mtani ni ngori, alafu tena naingia church ni ngori, maze nitapata wapi usaidizi? So there's this question about the role of families, and even we have a parent in our midst here, and we'd like to just pick your mind when it comes to, as a parent, is there a place for compromise and consensus? And you'll write that with, what advice would you give fellow parents or even the Gen Z in relation to this interaction that parents and Gen Zs have?
Definitely there's room for compromise. And I think for parents, one of the things that as parents, especially as the Gen X, who are now the parents of the Gen Z, is to start seeing their point of view. It's a challenge, because I can't, as a parent, keep telling you during my time, when I was growing up, we used to do this. You have no clue. I mean, you can't even understand. So as parents, we are challenged to actually start listening with a perspective of where our children are at that age, so that we are able to empathize and we are able to listen without judging. Because when I wear the hat of how I grew up, when I keep saying how we went to school without shoes and all those things, you did not grow up in that setup, So parents have a big task of trying to listen, and we can reach a compromise where we understand your point of view. And I think, as long as, I think like what he asked at the back, like how do we bridge that gap, is to try and listen, but showing you the end result. Because like what he's saying is, the Gen Z want to see results. If I'm telling you, this is how to achieve that, but I need to show you how. So you need to see the end. How are you going to make that money? If you do this, you will get there. And then also, I see this challenge even at the workplaces, where now most of the employers will be us, the parents. And therefore, you will find a lot of conflict. And like you said, the Gen Z, I mean, you just wake up one morning and resign. As in, you're not happy with this job, you want an increment after 3 months, and as we are used to growing, we grew like over 5 years, 10 years, but I think if we can show them, like, this is the direction, I think they will listen justifiably. And I think it's important to reach that compromise when we give them room to express themselves and without judging the person. Because I think that is so important, that you don't brand your child as this. Listen to them. But also probably the Gen Z needs to understand we are not perfect parents. In fact, Flash will probably tell you that we go for counseling more than you do, because the parents are challenged, we have our inadequacies, so it is, sometimes we also would want you to listen. Maybe give us an ear, and hopefully we can, as parents, we can also give you time to express yourself. And then we can get to a point of compromise where we both can see this is the end game.
Thank you for that contribution. I know you want to interact, but I want to pivot this conversation in as much as we have that relational aspect with parents. I think there are other relationships that they're not capturing in this conversation. And how about, Edwin, you break them down for us?
Well, I just want to pick it up from what I've heard and from what I've had. And I just want to say this. It took me a long time to understand that when my parents were teaching me responsibility, they were not doing it for themselves. Or rather, they were not doing it so that they can benefit. It was all for my good. Yeah? And I want to speak about it holistically, also picking from what Reverend Tony has said that about the church. You know, sometimes probably at the back of our minds we think that the church is doing what it's, or rather, at the back of our minds we could think that we are being pushed so that the church can benefit, but we are not coming to the realization that it is for ourselves. Now, putting it more practical, you know, life is like a relay where you pass on the baton. Now, at one particular time, a man called Paul in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4 tells Timothy, and I pray, do not let anyone look down upon you because you're young, but set an example in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. Now, I think the reason why Paul was coming through it in that kind of an aspect was simply because Paul realized that it is one thing to pass on the baton, but you can pass on the baton to a generation that is not responsible and they will drop the baton. Yeah? So he's particularly telling them, set an example. And so one of the things that I think is that Gen Zs, we have neglected the reality to understand that whatever is being passed on is not because of them. And really, if we are to continue with the place of responsibility, it is two-sided. Yes, the parents are supposed to raise us, but also, even for us, we need to take up the responsibility and be responsible, you know, and hold on to what we are being given to with respect and also with honor. And this can only happen by shaping character. Now, back to what you're asking me about relations. See, for this transition to happen between Paul and Timothy, for it to be soft, for lack of another word, there needs to be good relation. Yeah? And it is very clear right now, the relationships are very important from the point of parent to child. We can also talk about an employer to an employee. You know, Gen Zs, we are now the newly employed group. Yeah? We are the newly employed group, and now we also need to, and also we are becoming parents. You know? We are also becoming parents, and we also need to understand, how will I relate to my child so that I can also pass over the mantle? Yeah? We also need to mind our relations in as far as interacting with a Gen Z to a Gen Z. It's also something that has also been it is not being probably being treated with the kind of oomph that is needed, or rather the weight that is needed, where we need to realize that the person that is seated next to me could be my classmate today, but tomorrow could be my employer. He could be my next boss, you know, could also be my wife. And it's like, so probably we need to also realize that as we interact, as far as relations are concerned, unajua tumefika point sasa, now that our parents are also coming to be updated with so many things that are happening, there is also the place of pia sisi tunashindwa kurelate na wao vizuri juu tunaona information yenye wako nayo na yenye tuko nayo zinafanana, so kuna kamzoeano fulani kako hapo until we don't even understand boundaries. I think so about relations. So that is some of the things that we need to be on the look on. We need to look at it from that angle and really be keen on it.
Very profound. Yeah. Very profound. We save the best for last. I mean the last for, yeah, we save that one. I really love that contribution, and let's have Tabby just react also to this conversation even as we wind up our conversation.
Yeah, and I'll couple with the question that was asked about pushing and pushing to people who are questioning. Yeah. And also, I love what he said, and also I love what they have said, because I want to bridge the two. Because truth is, yes, Gen Z need to understand that bit of responsibility, very true. And truth is, they might not necessarily understand our parents, but, and this is what I would want to tell parents to Gen Z, church, youth pastors, people who are working with Gen Zs, even us who are here, people who have siblings who are Gen Zs, that
in my time that I have worked with Gen Z, there's one thing that stands out. A Gen Z, even in their questioning, even in their hunger for the truth, Gen Z are good discerners. They discern genuine love. If a Gen Z goes to a parent who doesn't have even all information about Gen Z, but can test genuine love, believe it or not, they will listen. And this is what I'd propose, even to what even one of them asked, where at home it's bad, church is bad, society is bad. And this is what I would want to relay this information, is that let's do what Jesus did. John 3:16 to begin with. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. If we gave Gen Z the genuine love, believe it or not, the Gen Zs will even admit to what we are telling them and what we are saying. Look at it this way. When we talk about for God so loved the world, God himself, he introduces himself to a person from the east, from the west, and when they attest to the love of God, they can't help but kneel down and say, dear Lord, I come, and they come genuinely. And when they attest the love of God, they actually now, that hunger becomes a fertile ground for truth. And now what we say is, if a Gen Z has that hunger for the truth, who is going to determine what falls on this fertile soil? If it is us, then let's give it the truth, the word of God that sets free. And when they are set free, they, Gen Z, will be the other evangelist to their fellow Gen Z. If a Gen Z attests genuine love from a mom, from a dad, they will definitely understand what is this thing called family values. They will take it to their child, to their grandchild, and all. If they attest genuine love from the church they attend to, believe it or not, you will find a Gen Z who is psyched up for church. If you go to many churches, Gen Z said, I'm bored for church. But if they attest the genuine love, and that is basically what I'd say, that let's go back to the root. Let's give them the truth with love, genuine love, and they are discerners. They will test it. And when they find it, they stick there.
Love conquers all. Powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah? Powerful. Thank you for that. Genuine love. Gen Z not after genuine love. I really love that. Let's have our dear parent, Jane, if you can just give us a punchline in relation to this conversation, even as we wrap up. A brief punchline.
I think most important for our Gen Z is purpose. That let's individually identify what our purpose is, so that regardless of whatever influence, regardless of what is around us, then we will be able to discern and to continue knowing this is what I need to pursue, this is my purpose in life, and so that regardless of the interruptions around us, we will stick to our goals. And one of the statements about, we want to get rich quick, we want to get there before we've even started, I think going back to the Bible, like Paul was saying to Timothy, godliness with contentment is great gain. That once you have a purpose and you know why you're there, then you will know you can have everything that there is, but it's not going to give you happiness. That you can have all those things, but once you have something, an anchor, then you'll be able to weather the storms and you will be able to achieve your purpose.
Thank you. What a powerful punchline. Wangapi wamekuwa knocked out? Wengine mtapata mkifika home. Percy, let's have a punchline from you.
Acts chapter 17 verse 26, the Bible says, for from one man God made every nationality to live over the whole earth, and has determined their appointed times and boundaries. You are not here at such a time as this. Within the boundaries of this country, this continent, God knows you are here, and he understands these times. And he knows that you have sufficient resources to live a victorious life. The responsibility is upon us. Discern the opportunities available in our time discern the challenges available in our time, and gain the wisdom of handling the two. Thank you.
Wise words, wise words. Flash, let's have a punchline before we hand it over to Rev.
I will not quote a Bible verse. I'll just tell you, don't let anybody shame you because you move fast and you work fast, because you're a good getter. Do you? But consult with God, isn't it? But do you? Remember, you got this. Yeah.
Edu, punchline.
I think all I can say is the baton is now in our hands. Let's take up the responsibility. We have all it takes. God is our backup. That's all.
Great stuff, great stuff. Siliombea hao ni wataalamu. Si umepata knowledge. Acha nipige punchline. Hii generation ni wazimu. Over to you, Rev.
Hii generation ya wazing. Kuna so many comments ambazo hatuwezi soma, but Elder Kezia amesema ana watch na jenzi wake wote, azin wamekalishwa chini wana watch. Alafu kuna mjenzi hapa anaitwa Fei, ana watch, anasema ama jenzi watching from Rongai. Alafu ati Rev Tony decided it's facts only. Yani kuna venye wapatia ma punchline hapo. Wow, it's been great. And kama venye inasemekana na majenzi, it is what it is. Si time imeisha. Si ndo hiyo. And we want to trust God that we will have many more opportunities to engage on this program. We inspire hope, resilience, and courage. And as we say, you can lose everything else. Unaweza lose kila kitu. But please, 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 do not lose hope. Keep hope alive. Na mnajuaje mbogi yangu? Kuna vanya si umaliza hii story. Si muamke.
Na wakisimama Rev, hebu ambie, by the way tumewapangia national conference.
Hebu sema.
Wai Summit. Wangapi wanajua Wai Summit? Wai Summit tunamwagika Mount Kenya region. Tunaenda ku dissect the gospel so that we may be grounded, founded. Ndio wase wakiinuka na magospel zingine za ufala mazee. Tuko na response.
So God bless you all. Thanks for coming. Wacha tumalize hii kitu vipoa, hype Sam. Alafu mama ya hype CEO, imagine umewagotea. Awesome. Haya, tumalize hii kitu vizuri.
So amazing. So nataka tuanze huku juu. Kuna venye show itaisha hivyo. So Rev.
Kwani.
Ukaha acha tupitie pale.
Kwani ni kesho?
Hapana, tupitie hapa ni karibu. Tunapanda stage si wote.
Kwani ni kesho?
Mimi si Gen Z. Mimi ni generation ya God. Gen G. You know. Sema you know. Na nimesikia kizungu zingine hapa. You know. So, watu tuko home. Kama ujalan, shida yako. Hii conversation sidhani tutarudia. Yeah, we're moving back. You know. So tunaanza na nyinyi. Twende DJ Kagim. So tunatoa move, tutatoa moja, tunaenda hivyo hadi mwisho. Tuko gani? Sawa. Kila mtu twende tu pole tu. Pole tu. Wacha tuanze wapi? Tunaanza hapa. Kuja, usitoroke. Twende. Move. Twende na. Twende tu. Move. Twende bro. Twende na. Hey, twende. Unajaribu bazokizo. Twende na. Chini. Songa mbele. Nyuma. Twende tu. Aya. Twende. Uyaga tusoma akili. Sasa ni wewe. Salsa kidogo. Rev.
blessing. Money, testimony. Go to follow.
This year, good news. Giant plenty money. Go to follow.
Everything I've been wanting, from my heart.
One more time, bro.
Everything you've been wanting, manifest.
Even before you call me, my Baba is too short. Even before you call, you don't answer. My Baba is too short.
Kila mtu twende chini, twende chini, twende chini, twende chini, twende chini. Mali uko kila mtu twende chini, twende chini. Twende chini. Kila mtu. Kila mtu. Kila mtu. One more time. Pole pole twende kila mtu twende chini. Kila mtu. Thank you for watching Raise of Hope. Weka energy, twende. Twende tu. One more time. Alafu kila mtu twende tu. Twende tu. Twende tu. Kuna kitu ilikuwa inaitwa hula hoop. Tunajaribu nayo. Twende tu. Change mguu. Sadi ingine. Kanyaga nayo. To the side, you are. I feel my God is good. One more time. Stronger. One more time. Stronger. You are. One more time. Put it on the. Mgeni Yesu makofi. Tujaribu one more time, si ndio? So, hii unafanya hivi, welcome. Tukisema city, una city. Na usikae. Una city. Alafu, make my heart your home. Make my heart. Twende DJ Kagame. Pole tu. Kila mtu piga makofi kidogo tu. Twende tu. One more time. Turn it to. You already know the move. Turn it. Kila mtu. One more time. Turn it. I think make my heart. Turn it to. Kweli hapa tuko tena mingi. Turn it. Pole jaribu odi. Turn it. Sunguka nayo. Twende tu. Sunguka. One more time. Alafu kila mtu twende tu. Inajua reva na jua. Kila mtu twende tu. Chini. Chini. Put some energy to it. Twende tu.
Natazama milimani natafuta tu.
Kila mtu. Okota na pole. Okota tu. Pole. Mali uko kila mtu tu.
Painting, not a painting. Personality a dead thing. It's a dead thing. Painting can do a smart thing. If you love Jesus and she put away the dead thing. Painting a straight shooter. Painting straighter than an arrow or a ruler. And make sure painting always keep it 100. Painting slowly and she give us 100. She not dependent by the world, She gave Jesus Christ all control, Rainbow, she the gold, Watch out, taking over. She not dependent by the world, She gave Jesus Christ all control, Rainbow, she the gold, She a painting, she a painting, She a painting,
Wacha tuone wao. Twende tu. Ya mwisho.
She a painting,
Twende wao.
painting that define better out of what she working.
Side ingine. for watching Rays of Hope. God bless Sana each and every Monday from 7:30 to 9 p.m. God bless you. Bye-bye.